What if I told you that everything you believe to be true about Jim Jones's life was actually false? Mama Jones is finally revealing the truth, and it is truly astounding. Why did Jim's life spiral out of control? Why was there betrayal? Why was there chaos? Get ready, because Mama Jones just revealed the answers, and I promise you won't believe who is responsible. Was Jim's downfall really just the result of poor choices, or were his closest associates secretly plotting against him? Chrissy and Cam'ron have always been controversial, but did they really set out to destroy Jim's empire from the inside? Mama Jones is outlining everything, and what she's saying is nothing short of explosive. What did Chrissy and Cam'ron do behind closed doors that resulted in Jim's public humiliation? And how deep is the web of betrayal? The truth is darker than anyone could have predicted. It's about a full-blown conspiracy, not just a few poor choices. Get ready to hear the untold story. You won't look at Jim Jones the same way again. It's going to hit harder than you think. So let's break this down, because what you're about to hear is going to shake the foundations of everything you thought. After years of watching the wreckage unfold, Mama Jones has finally spoken out about Jim Jones and the people around him. But believe me, this isn't just another family drama. What we're dealing with here is a betrayal so deep and intricate that it's almost hard to believe it's real. For years, Jim has been a controversial figure, going through public feuds, controversial decisions, and let's not forget, undeniable influence in the rap game. However, the question has always been, what really happened? How did someone so powerful and self-assured end up in the mess that he's in today? The names that always seem to surface when Jim's life falls apart are Chrissy and Cam'ron. Now you may be wondering, what's new? But Mama Jones is finally revealing the truth. You see, there has been a mystery surrounding Jim's demise for years. Public humiliation, career setbacks, relationship problems, but it was all too much to ignore. Mama Jones is making the connections, and when she does, she paints a picture that's not pretty. Did Chrissy and Cam'ron truly betray Jim to the point of no return? Mama Jones says they did. But what's terrifying is the depth of this conspiracy. It goes beyond simple jealousy or miscommunications. It encompasses power, control, and the brutal lengths people will go to when they feel threatened. To fully comprehend the seriousness of this revelation, we need to take a moment to reflect on the years when Jim's empire was booming. He had everything going for him: music, business, loyalty. But then his life began to fall apart in a way that seemed almost deliberate. Mama Jones claims to have witnessed it all firsthand, having seen the people closest to Jim, people he trusted, tugging the strings behind his back. The recent revelations from Mama Jones paint a picture of a control-obsessed person who would not hesitate to manipulate and destroy to get what they wanted. Then there's Cam'ron, a name that, let's face it, has always carried a lot of weight in the streets. As a major figure in the rap scene, Cam'ron built his own empire. But Mama Jones claims that Chrissy Lampkin has always been a divisive character in the public eye and has never been shy about her opinions, especially when it comes to Jim's friends and associates. There's more to the story than what has been reported. She claims that behind the scenes, Cam'ron's intentions were never as pure as they seemed. For years, he's been playing a dangerous game. And his ultimate goal? Well, let's just say it wasn't Jim Jones's success. It's easy to think of these relationships as tabloid-worthy drama. But what if it's more than that? What if the people Jim trusted the most were the ones driving him towards self-destruction? Now, Mama Jones isn't just discussing trivial matters, she's revealing the truth about how Chrissy and Cam'ron purposefully manipulated Jim's situation for their own gain. And believe me, the more you learn about it, the more astounding it becomes. However, before we go into the specifics of how they did it, let's take a moment to understand why this is so significant. Jim Jones isn't just any celebrity. He's a mainstay in the rap industry, a man who has shaped culture, a figure who commands respect. And you can bet that when someone close to him begins to pull strings behind the scenes, you can expect betrayal. At its highest level, it was also personal. Jim Jones believed that everyone was on his side, including Chrissy and Cam'ron, as well as the people in his inner circle whom he trusted with everything. However, what Mama Jones reveals next will fundamentally alter your perspective on these relationships. According to her, Cam'ron was instrumental in stoking the flame between Jim and Chrissy. And it wasn't just a case of drama or egos, rather. He was working behind the scenes to sow doubt and chaos. What was his ultimate goal? Was he trying to undermine Jim in order to establish his own business? Or was there something more going on here? Following the bombshell that Cam'ron was actually setting himself up to replace Jim, how does that relate to Chrissy's role in all of this? Mama Jones has a theory. She feels Cam'ron manipulated Chrissy out of a desire for power and control. But it was more than just power. It was a sense of betrayal pushing Chrissy to make decisions that would destroy the very foundation Jim had built. By this point, it's obvious that this isn't just a simple love triangle or a falling out over a friendship. Rather, it's a calculated scheme that has been going on for years. As we piece together the puzzle, we begin to realize how intentional and malicious this betrayal really was. Mama Jones wasn't just watching her son's life fall apart from the sidelines, she was watching everything Jim had worked for be destroyed by people he trusted. The question is, how much longer will Jim stand by and let it happen? And more importantly, how far does this conspiracy go? The damage wasn't just emotional, it was strategic. Every move Chrissy and Cam'ron made was part of a larger plan to gradually destroy Jim's empire. People always assume they know what's going on behind the scenes. They see the glitz and glamour, but they don't see the battles that go on in the shadows. Chrissy, Cam'ron, and Jim were all entangled in something that turned ugly, and it's time the world knew the real story. She started speaking. Years of unspoken hurt, betrayal, and anger were revealed, showing a side of the story that had never been fully told. It wasn't just about family matters anymore. It was about loyalty, trust, and the devastating toll that one person's decisions could have on an entire group of people. Breathe in. Get ready to delve deeper into the web of deception, manipulation, and treachery that had ripped Jim's life apart. Jim and Cam'ron had been like brothers, supporting one another through thick and thin. But somewhere along the line, things changed, and Cam'ron grew distant, leaving Jim in the middle. At that point, everything began to fall apart. Mama Jones paused for a moment, her face showing a mix of pain and disbelief. At first, I saw it all happening in small, subtle cracks here and there, she said. Jim would come home and tell me that. Things were becoming tense with Cam'ron, that they weren't seeing eye to eye anymore. And Chrissy would constantly bring up the subject, as though she were trying to drive a wedge between them. It wasn't just about Jim and Cam'ron anymore. It was about her control and her idea of what things should be. The weight of her words struck hard, as she went on to explain how Chrissy's manipulation gradually crept into Jim's relationship with everyone around him. Chrissy wanted Jim to be everything she wanted him to be, Mama Jones said. But she didn't realize that she was breaking him down in the process. She didn't want him to be the man he used to be, she wanted him to fit her ideal man. People who genuinely cared for him, starting with Cam'ron. Cam'ron, Mama Jones muttered, shaking her head. He wasn't always like this. He was a loyal friend once. But loyalty only goes so far. When people start to change, Cam'ron didn't just change. He began to see Jim as a stepping stone, a way to advance in the game and secure his own position. When Chrissy entered the picture, it was like a perfect storm. Both began tugging at Jim from different directions, each attempting to shape him into their ideal version of himself, but no one ever stopped to ask him what he wanted. The pain in her voice was evident as she recalled the times when Jim's life started to spiral out of control. Jim was a shell of the man he once was, and it wasn't because of the music or the business. Rather, it was because of the people he trusted the most, Chrissy and Cam'ron, who had taken everything from him piece by piece, until he didn't recognize himself anymore. Mama Jones wiped away a tear as she went on. What hurt the most was that Jim didn't even see it coming because he was blinded by the love he had for Chrissy and the friendship he believed he had with Cam'ron. While he was blinded, they were conspiring behind his back, setting him up for failure, and he couldn't see it because he was too engrossed in the moment. They had created an illusion. But it was now evident that the betrayal was about more than just a romantic relationship. It was about a long-standing friendship that had become toxic. Mama Jones described how Cam'ron's relationship with Jim deteriorated, how old wounds were reopened, new betrayals formed, and how Cam'ron began to distance himself emotionally and physically from Jim. She also described how Chrissy was doing everything in her power to drive a wedge between Jim and his true friends without Jim even realizing it. She was controlling the situation. Mama Jones said, her voice trembling slightly under the weight of the truth. When it all hit the fan, he was the last one to know because he was being tested, and no one was there to tell him the truth or show him what was really happening behind the scenes. When I saw it all unfold in front of me, I couldn't stay quiet any longer. It wasn't just about Jim anymore, it was about the damage Chrissy and Cam'ron had done to him, to us, to everything we built together. Mama Jones' realization that Jim was not the same person she had known before, not simply because of the betrayal, but also because of his shifting behavior, was the pivotal moment. Jim was too good for this, too loyal, too real for these games. But that's the thing about loyalty. It can be your greatest strength, but it can also be your downfall when the wrong people take advantage of it. When he was losing himself, in all the lies and manipulation, I saw my son, the one I raised, the one I loved, become someone I didn't recognize. It wasn't just the pressure from his career or the fame. It was the people he had let into his life, people who didn't have his best interests at heart, Mama Jones continued, her voice steady but deeply emotional. They knew how to take advantage of Jim's love, trust, and loyalty. And in the end, Jim was the one who paid the price. As the days went by, the weight of the betrayal became too much to bear. And I knew the truth had to be revealed not just for Jim, but for everyone who had been impacted by the lies and deceit. I'm not doing this for fame or retaliation. I'm doing this because Jim deserves to know the truth, and the world deserves to know who Chrissy and Cam'ron truly are. They believed they could destroy him and get away with it, but they underestimated one thing: family. It's far from over. She made it clear that she would no longer keep quiet for Jim, for her family, and for herself. The truth would finally come to light. Now that we have dismantled the intricate web of deceit that Chrissy and Cam'ron had created, we must discuss the chaos that followed as Jim Jones's life fell apart due to betrayal. This wasn't just a public split or a celebrity quarrel. Rather, it was the dissolution of an empire that Jim had spent years building. But what happens when the people you trust turn out to be the ones dragging you to your death? Well, ask Jim. Now about the fallout. According to Mama Jones, the emotional destruction wasn't merely for show. It struck Jim where it hurt the most. His music career had begun to wane, but it wasn't due to age or changing fashions. Rather, it was the harm done by his closest friends and family, the ones he believed had his back. According to Mama Jones, Chrissy and Cam'ron were playing behind the scenes to make sure Jim would lose his favor, and the results were disastrous. Let's start with the legal ramifications. As the full extent of the betrayal started to come to light, when someone with such a high profile is being attacked in this manner, it's no surprise that legal action begins to follow. Mama Jones suggests that Chrissy and Cam'ron threatened to sue Jim, but not for the reasons you might think. It wasn't about personal slights or broken friendships. Rather, these lawsuits were part of a larger scheme to ensnare him in legal red tape, drain him of his money, and divert his attention, while they pursued control. But here's where it gets really interesting. At one point, Jim was thinking of going public with a massive lawsuit of his own, a lawsuit that would... Jim hesitated because he still thought that Chrissy and Cam'ron were somehow redeemable. He didn't want to believe the worst of the people who had been closest to him. But Mama Jones, being the protective mother that she is, didn't have that luxury. She saw right through it. Exposing the truth about the shady dealings she claims Cam'ron and Chrissy were involved in, the lawsuit, would have brought the dirty laundry out into the open for the entire world to see. What could have been more satisfying than watching Cam'ron, the master manipulator himself, be forced to answer questions about his role in this whole mess? Jim Jones made his biggest mistake, and as we all know, hesitation kills. Careers by the way. Time he realized what was truly happening. The financial collapse had already occurred. But let's talk about the money. When you've spent your entire life achieving success and someone comes along to ruin your reputation and relationships, the financial toll is unavoidable. Jim Jones lost not only his financial standing, but also his personal relationships. According to Mama Jones, Cam'ron and Chrissy were behind the scenes pulling strings that caused Jim to become impoverished. While Jim was preoccupied with the drama, Chrissy and Cam'ron were quietly arranging deals that sucked away his wealth. Imagine being at the top of your game, making millions, and then realizing that your friends have been draining you from the inside out. That's what happened to Jim. His brand crashed, his ventures failed, and his assets were liquidated. It wasn't just a financial decline, it was a crash. And the two people he believed he could trust the most were responsible. Let's not mince words, though. Mama Jones claims that Chrissy and Cam'ron were planning Jim's demise for years, and by the time Jim was able to see it clearly, his financial stability was already in ruins. However, the public backlash was the real monster. Because as we've seen in countless scandals, once the rumors start, there's no turning back. Social media has a way of turning the smallest whispers into full-blown fires, and boy, did it go up in flames. The public was divided. Some supported Jim because they felt that his entire career had been sabotaged, while others showed support for Chrissy and Cam'ron. It was a media frenzy, with everyone playing the blame game. But Mama Jones reveals that Chrissy and Cam'ron were far from innocent. In the eyes of the public, they weren't just victims in the story. They were also participants in this larger-than-life drama, crafting their own narrative and feeding the media machine with false information to make sure Jim took the brunt of the blame. What's even more shocking is how quickly public sentiment changed, with people beginning to question Jim's every move. Did he deserve the backlash? Was he the victim, or did he bring this upon himself? This meant that Jim was being portrayed as a loser who couldn't manage his personal and professional life. But Mama Jones won't allow that to remain. She insists that Jim wasn't just the victim of personal betrayal, but rather of a deliberate campaign to ruin his reputation. Then comes the last blow when Mama Jones reveals that the true cause of the chaos was not just Chrissy's and Cam'ron's egos. It was about control. You see, they weren't just interested in seeing Jim fail. They wanted to replace him. They were motivated by a desire to destroy everything Jim built so they could rise from the ashes. The saddest truth of all is that after everything we've discovered, the question still stands. What does this mean for Jim Jones? Is there hope? That he will rebuild from the wreckage Chrissy and Cam'ron left behind? Or is it already too late for a comeback? Mama Jones has spoken her truth, but will it help him pull the strings in the end? Jim's life was shattered not because of a random event, but because of a well-planned scheme by the people who claim to care for him the most. If you feel the gravity of this shocking truth and want to stay up to date on every twist and turn in this scandal, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. You won't want to miss any of the exclusive details that are about to unfold. We're just getting started, so you can bet we'll be diving in. Will it be enough to change the narrative, or has the damage been done? Tell us in the comments below if you think Jim will rise from the ashes, or if you think his career is doomed. Did Chrissy and Cam'ron ruin his life? Or did Jim just play right into their hands? Even more shocking revelations that you won't hear anywhere else are coming up, so turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next bombshell. Keep in mind, this isn't just gossip, it's about real lives, real betrayals, and real consequences. Tell us what you think, who you believe is truly to blame, and who is the real mastermind behind this chaos. Let's start a conversation in the comment section below, because nobody ever stays silent in the world of scandal. Please leave a comment, subscribe, and keep checking back for the next shocking revelation.